I was lucky that I didn't know what I didn't know. The, when you don't know what you don't know, you don't fear them. And you just do it. You're interested in what we call the explainable AI rather than just black box AI. But now we have a very special point of view of we have seen so many companies and so many data structures and the level of organizations to it. It's very easy to become resourceful and just learn things on the fly and online here and there. But the best skill set that I would recommend is, in order to create so much value in this industry, you do not have to come up with a NASA level technology to create immense. An estimate taking 2 weeks is normal. No one is complaining about it, unless someone figures that, well, what if we do it in a day? And then everyone loves it. The first thing that comes to my mind is just watching my dad, how he ran his own business. And a lot of times he just had to be resourceful.
Hey everyone, this is Sampada Chavan, and I started the Future Builds for one simple reason. The way we build is evolving, and we need a platform that captures that. There are too many experts in the industry, and let's be honest, I ain't one. I haven't even walked enough miles to fill their shoes. So why are you here? Because in a world where success is glorified, I want to show you the process of learning, building, and becoming. Consider this your friendly guideline on how to go from a amateur to an expert realistically. I focus on topics like construction, technology, architecture, career growth, creativity, and sprinkle in some realities of life as well. The goal is to build ourselves, because when you build yourself, the future builds itself. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, Hamid Hajian, CEO and founder of Zebel. And I think we have a treat here, and I'm probably saying this very selfishly because the tool he has built is absolutely fire, and it has actually laid the foundation of how construction is using historic data. And you're actually changing the future of estimating, if you ask me. So I'm so delighted to have you on my show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me. And I started this not really knowing that it could change the future of estimating. But at the time, I was just wanted to change my own job, like make it easier for me to estimate. That's why I started it.
Well, my next question was going to be, what was your why to start Zebel? How did you get here?
Getting into the technical part of it, I always wanted to do something on my own. Always wanted to have my own business, to have that kind of a freedom of doing my own thing. That was always on my mind, and I always kind of on the lookout for, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, maybe I should do a food truck, or I should do this and that, and all different kinds of ideas. And before I was a pre-con manager in my last job, I was a BIM specialist in the job previous to that, and I was working at a company in New York. And even then I was looking at, maybe I should start a BIM agency and do the 3D modeling for people, do 3D laser scanning for as-built modeling. But I didn't act on it at that time. It didn't feel like the right opportunity. But this one, when the opportunity came up that I built an internal solution to speed up our estimating process in the last company I was at, I felt like this is a good opportunity. I could turn this possibly into a company. And that's how it started, basically, the original idea of starting my company. And this is about 10 years ago when I was part of this general contracting company in California called Western National Group, and which does multifamily projects across California. And we were doing a lot of estimates for projects, and I figured we were not fast enough for our clients. And I did a little bit of research. I utilized my kind of inquisitive mind on like looking into everything, see what's wrong with it. And then I figured most of our time was spent on looking up data rather than estimating. And we were mostly spreadsheet managers rather than pre-con managers. And we were getting paid like pre-con money, but doing the spreadsheet work. And that's really how it started. I thought, can I cut down the time that we are spending on managing spreadsheets and copying and pasting data between too many spreadsheets into minutes and spend our time on true estimating? That's how it started.
That's a beautiful story. So what does Zebel really do for those who don't know anything about it?
Zebel makes the estimating process faster for general contractors and developers. How do we do it? By organizing data and leveraging data in an automated fashion. And the core value of the Zebel software estimating for estimating is the speed. That's really the main value proposition.
It's incredible. I've seen Zebel in full action, full throttle, and I've seen you present at conferences too. So, how 10 years ago when you started it, how difficult was it to convince people in the industry or anyone to kind of shift from how we've been traditionally using historical data, which, like you said, it's lost in those spreadsheets. So how did you really convince people that we need something entirely different that no one's ever thought about?
I was fortunate enough to work at Western National Group and working closely with our main client, Airline Company, apartment development, where this core idea came up. And I was able to build this like a side spreadsheet. And I presented it to my boss at the time, Chris Kennedy. And he was the VP of Preconstruction. And he let me work on that side project. And that was really the critical moment, I believe. And that allowed this whole project to be born. And I kept working on it. And then I showed some progress and showed it to the team. Look, you can look up data a lot faster. And then they came to me and they came up with ideas. Can you make it do this? Can you make it do that? And next thing I know, I'm just adding more bells and whistles to that fancy spreadsheet that I had built. That was really how the whole idea was born. And I spent the first 3 years of that while I was still employed at Western National and really tested and validated this on our own, those projects when I was at that.
And so then you naturally saw that it had potential to scale from there?
Yeah, because we were typically given 2 weeks for a back of an envelope estimate, and we were spending those 2 weeks, and we were often even late on that. And after we built this, we were just spending maybe an hour to come up with even more estimate, more accurate estimate. And that was revolutionary. That was game changer. And it didn't happen just once or twice. I used that tool, an internal tool, for over 300 estimates. And the numbers were just coming up as accurate, if not more accurate than the traditional way that would take 2 weeks. And that's really what convinced me that there's something here. We got to take it to the market. We got to make it available to everyone. And I made sure it works before I quit my job while I had a 1-year-old at home.
Oh my God. I mean, this is the biggest, I guess taking the risk. Like you decided to jump when you saw like really had that potential in it. I guess I'm diverting from like our construction route to like a more business route. How did you develop that independently once you did, once you quit your job? How did you find the right people to work? I mean, there's so much more to learn when you start your own business. So how did you find all those resources?
I was lucky that I didn't know what I didn't know. When you don't know what you don't know, you don't fear them. And you just do it. Years later, when you look back, you think to yourself, like, why on earth I did that? Like all of these different ways that this could go wrong. And just, I didn't know half of them. And even though I went to the MBA program at the Wharton school and I thought like I'm equipped with all of the knowledge, went through formal education about how to run a business, even took some entrepreneurial classes and all of that. But still, when I look back at the journey over the last 6 years since I started the company, I see like a lot of learnings and a lot of new things. But what I just did was the best way I can describe the journey was when you step into an entrepreneurial journey, you are stepping into a pitch black, dark room that you don't really know anything. You can't see far enough, but you got to equip yourself with all of the resources you can gather from the around you, the advisors you can get, doing a lot of as much research as you can, talk to other companies, other startups, watch them closely. And all of that gives you a little flashlight that would show only the next 1 foot. And then you take one step, go 1 foot forward, and then you can see another the second foot and then the third foot. And that's how like you just go one step at a time. And there's no flashlight, like big, like a spotlight to just light up the room and just show you the way. There's nothing like that. And even though you talk to a lot of people and they tell you, oh, this is how you should do this and that and that and that. And the people who actually tell you exactly what to do, what to follow, they tend to be not former entrepreneurs. They are usually like the consultants who worked with the entrepreneurs. But the moment you sit behind the wheel and try the driving yourself, it's very different than just reading the manuals. Just but you just got to do it. You got to jump into it and start doing it.
That sounds exciting and terrifying at the same time. But I guess you made really good decisions throughout because now Zebel is, it's big. Like you are an industry force. You're creating those waves. And I guess that's why they say necessity is the mother of invention. Like you saw that hole, you filled the gap. So I know you're a visionary. I guess what I want to say, start off with is like, did you have any misconceptions? Like, let's say you worked with your company first, but did you have misconceptions about the overall industry that
Oh,
were then blown away
lots of
once
them.
you started getting out there?
Lots of them, yes. The
Okay.
best one that comes to my mind right now is when I first created that quick estimating tool. I thought, this is simple. This is not good enough. We got to use this to come up with a complicated system where it not only looks up the cost of a project, but also the revenue of the project, and look at the parameters that describes the design of the project and run some complicated optimization analysis so that the software will suggest here's the optimal design that gives you the maximum return on investment for your real estate development project. That was my thought. And we called it yield optimization tool. Even I came up with like yacht. This is like you need a yacht. You need a yield optimization tool. And that was kind of my dream. And very quickly I realized the industry was not ready for it. If
Mhm.
it takes you more than 2 minutes to describe something to your potential client and it happens over and over and over again, it's not the right product for the time. And then just over time, I just ended up kind of scaling back of what I wanted to build.
Okay.
And even to this date, we have a conceptual estimating tool, we have detail estimating tool, bid leveling, all of that, the entire spectrum. Guess what? You can guess the most popular feature of our software. It's a simple side-by-side comparison of all of the past projects in a table. That's
Oh.
the most popular feature of the software. People love it, like when they see it. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is the immediate need of the industry. It's
Uh-huh.
when you show that, people's eyes light up. That's, you can tell, okay, they've been trying to do this every day and it takes them
Mm-hmm.
forever to do it in the spreadsheets. And then I can show them you can do it in a few seconds. So you gotta learn the lesson of, you gotta meet your clients where they're at, rather than,
Wow.
giving them a vision of this is where you should go. Meet them where they're at
Uh-huh.
and then hold their hand, work together, partner with them to progress from there, rather than talking to them from an ivory tower and tell them, you don't understand. Let me show you the way. With the right attitude, people become your friend and your partners, and they will help you succeed.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good perspective for everyone who's trying to get there with a brand new idea, wanting to start a company, not realizing that you have to meet your clients where they're at. So the industry right now, I see that there's a lot of resistance around AI. And the AI is also to blame for that because AI is making a lot of noise around construction right now. So what's your perspective? Because yours is also an AI based tool that does these parametric estimates.
Mhm.
So what's your view or what's your insight on AI and how it's being used in the industry? How do people make sure they're not getting AI scammed?
There is a lot of hype, obviously, around AI in all industries, including construction. I am interested in it. I use it every day for my everyday stuff that I do at work. But in terms of our product, we are working on it and we are interested in it with a particular point of view. We are interested in what we call the explainable AI rather than just
Okay.
black box AI. One of the things that I got lucky before I started this company was I watched another conceptual cost estimating software company that came up before I started this company. And they basically came up with what you would call today AI, but this
Okay.
years ago. And you would enter a bunch of parameters into it and it would spit out an estimate very quickly for you. When I took a closer look at it, I realized they explained it to me actually that they have created a multivariate nonlinear regression model, which by any measure is called AI now. And that was behind the scene based on the historical data of the clients. And they went out of business because good luck explaining how a multivariate nonlinear regression model works for estimators in our industry. They wouldn't be interested
Mm-hmm.
because no matter how accurate the number is, if they cannot describe it, explain it, and defend it, it's no use to them because they have to put their stamp on it and their job is on the line. And if you can't understand how it came up with the numbers, it has no use. So just an example of how AI should or should not be
Mm-hmm.
in our industry, at least.
Right. So, what is your approach at Zebel with AI? Like, what are you trying to do with it?
Great question. So we have identified particular applications for pre-construction that we believe there are some true utilities for using AI to automate certain processes. What we have done so far is we have put up we are standing on a pedestal now. We have put some up, and we have realized, if we apply AI to these specific components, we haven't released anything yet, but if you apply to these specific components yet, based on the feedback we have received from our clients, it provides actual true utility to them beyond just the hype and what's cool. Because what I've seen is like almost every company on earth, now they have a chat box. They call it, this is our co-pilot, or they give it different names. But how much can I actually use it beyond the first time that I just play with it and cool and ask it for like stupid questions and see what, for the fun of it, and see what answers it comes up with? We don't want to do that. We want to come up with something that's meaningful.
Yeah, I had this conversation with, someone I work with, and we were discussing like, hey, we could use AI to ask questions. And he said, questions like what? And I was like, you can ask questions like, how many doors does this project have?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want estimators to count, ask how many doors it has. I want them to count doors, or I want them to actually know what entails in the project. It does simplify some of the work by having all that information, but I think it's also the responsibility of the estimator or the pre-construction professional to actually know what's in the project to begin with. So I completely echo with you on like the use cases of AI need to be more well defined, I would say.
Yes.
But I guess I also want to ask you, and because Zebel is so reliant on the data that you're feeding it, I guess my other question would be, did you always receive, like from the industry partners you're working with, did you always receive data that's pristine and clear and well categorized? Because we struggle with that a lot.
I wish. we, I can say we always receive dirty, unorganized, scattered data. And very rarely, there has been a few companies that they surprised us by like having really neat set of data. And internally, we have discussed about giving them a plaque of like, thank you for giving us a clean set of data. That was one of the many very early learnings for us. Initially, when we started the company, we would ask people, clean up your data before even you can talk to us. And that was a, non-starter. And that's why we offer services to clean up data for our clients. And initially, it was a tough decision to make because it's a money loser service. And, it's just tedious. It takes a lot of time. But we invested a lot of time and resources on it. And now we have come up with a streamlined process to do, because we have done it over and over and over for a variety of kinds of companies. And we have seen all different kinds of formats. And it's so funny to be in that kind of position. An average pre-con professional may work for a handful of companies, maybe at most. But now we have a very special point of view of we have seen so many companies and so many data structures and the level of organizations to it. So now that when we sign up a new client, we can clean up their data faster than they could do it themselves if they have the time. Because we have a process, we are not going to be lost in the woods. Where do I start? We know how to clean it up to make it easy for them.
Okay. The thing I struggle with the most is like when we create these estimates, I always describe them like a piece of art. Everyone puts something more individualistic into their estimates. Someone would want to put a crane into division 2 conditions, but someone wants division source to put it into concrete. So like how if you were to advise someone who wants to work with you but also wants to clean up their data by themselves, what tips do you guys have? Like how do you get everyone to look at the estimate in the same exact way?
Great question. So what we recommend is what I call organized flexibility, which means at a higher level, you need to be organized and standardized your work breakdown structure, your process across the board for your projects. but leave some wiggle room for each estimator for each project to insert their own art and do their own things. But don't let them make those kinds of decisions at a very high level. If you got to decide where you're putting your crane on, whether it goes into division X or Y, not both, because it makes your historical data not so usable, not usable enough when you're picking
Mm-hmm.
from past projects. However, how they want to break down the cost of crane, leave it up to them to how they would
Mm-hmm.
break it down. If they want to break it down into 3 line items or just 1 line item, let them decide on that. So that's how we have architected our system. So you need to define these levels of hierarchy of work breakdown structure at the template level for the organization, and then leave a flexible layer of hierarchy in your work breakdown structure for the estimator project level information, so that
Mm-hmm.
they bring in specific stuff. Like you can say, this is for the concrete on the north side, but you don't want that thing to show up in your historical data. That's not usable. But
Right.
it rolls up to a standard cost code that is usable and repeats from project to project. That's what we recommend.
That's great advice. I'm going to, translate that and try to get some of us to execute that too. I like the word you used, flexible. What was it?
Organized flexibility.
Organized flexibility.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to that. There are so many people who are entering into the industry right now, and we are at the point in time where people are contemplating if college is worth it or not,
Mhm.
or even like, and we have very few people entering the construction industry too. So with that whole shortage of like people and resources and all these different constraints, what do you think are the skills that people need to have if they're just entering into the industry?
Regarding like whether to go to college or not, or just join a trade, I'm a strong believer in college experience. I still believe my undergraduate education shaped my character, or how I think, and even my kind of research oriented thought process all stems from there. Even though after that I went to graduate school twice, but still that college experience, it's a lot more than just learning the formulas. I almost remember none of the formulas now. But I, the think about the way you approach things, and your
Right.
colleagues, the all of your classmates, you learn from them, all of the interactions, and also watching them over time, how where everyone ends up with based on the kind of decisions they make. All of that enriches your experience, and
Mhm.
I'm all for it. And in terms of the kind of skills that they want to learn, the good thing is now it's very easy to become resourceful and just learn things on the fly and online here and there. But the best skill set that I would recommend is the soft skills, not the
Mhm.
stuff. During the my MBA program, there were generally two categories of classes: the hard skills, the finance class, the marketing, and all of those stuff. And there were more soft skill classes, the leadership classes, and the likes of that kind of thing. And I remember the school officials, they would say like, the kind of stuff that are gonna stick with you are those soft skills, that you're gonna appreciate those more than the hard skills. And they were right. That's far more powerful, far more enduring, and it just lasts. It stays with you on how to deal with
Mhm.
people, how to even think about, let's say, when you start a company, and how you think about your early customers, what to do so that you build that trust with them, that they're really trusting you, and how you should protect it and navigate the um, you know managing people's feelings and things like that that have big
Mhm.
consequences on your own life. Those are the kind of stuff that I would recommend people having. That's what I have, an 8-year-old at home, and that's I love when she learns something like that, like some social skills at school. Like
Mhm.
those are the kind of stuff that's far more useful than some learning some math problem or things like that.
Right. I mean, you answered that so well because everyone, when they go to college, everyone is so focused on learning those courses or like very micro focused on the learnings from it and how to execute that in the industry, or maybe even not these days. I don't know. It's been a while since I went to college. So, but I think what's more important, like you said, is just having those experiences and interactions that actually enrich your whole ecosystem, like the intellectual ecosystem that you build, but there are also people, I guess this question was more catered to the people trying to enter the construction industry to work as a construction professional. But what advice would you give to someone who's trying to also find solutions to problems or who's trying to build a software like you are? So is there anything that you would advise to people like that?
For people who want to enter the tech side of construction, I would say you're entering the big ocean of opportunities, because we are living and operating in an industry that's so archaic, still so kind of things are so backwards. On the surface, it's not as exciting as the computer industry or like other like manufacturing or other ones, or finance, but it presents opportunities. That means in order to create so much value in this industry, you do not have to come up with a NASA level technology to create immense value. In other words, the technology bar is so low for you to create value. And that means half of the issue is easier. The hard part is once you come up with a solution, once you create the technology, the harder part is selling it, communicating it to the construction industry. So that's why if you work through the trades, work, in whatever, aspect of the construction you're in pre-construction, you're a superintendent, whatever. But if you grow into the industry and have those firsthand experiences, that will help you a lot down the road. That's why when I am in a sales call with a prospective client, I always introduce myself as I'm a former pre-con manager turned tech entrepreneur. And right there, immediately you establish that bond. It's like he's one of us. No, he's not an outsider to our industry. And when you enter that industry with that angle, but always keep an open mind on new technology and what kind of problem can I solve, it helps you a lot. But approach it with that kind of an angle. That would be very helpful.
Would you say curiosity is like the biggest trait that one needs to have?
Yeah. I've leveraged my what I call like the inquisitive mind. Has been very helpful because a lot of the inefficiencies in our industry is commonly considered as part of the work. An estimate taking 2 weeks is normal. No one is complaining about it unless someone figures that, well, what if we do it in a day? And then everyone loves it. But until that point in time, it's considered part of the work. And I jokingly tell this proverb. There's this Iranian proverb that says, in a group of blind people, the man with one eye is the king. And our industry is kind of like that. A lot of things are so backwards, so inefficient. And all it takes for you to progress, to stand out, is to have one eye and to see something that no one else is seeing. Then we can create progress. The kind of stuff that like inspired me before I started this company was like Plan Grid. I don't know if you have followed the story of Plan Grid. If you look at the technology they made, it's kind of laughable now. They were the first company that allowed people to look at drawings on an iPad. That was the extent of technology. Just viewing drawings on an iPad instead of carrying around the blueprints around the site. Right now, it's not even considered technology, right? It's just, of course, you gotta have it. And we're not talking about 100 years ago. We're talking about like 2011, right? It's not that long ago. And yet they were the first ones. And I remember the founding team in some kind of interview, they were talking about how iPads would crash because the PDF size of drawings were so large. And they bet on Apple making better iPads over time and with bigger memories and better CPUs. And Apple solved that problem for them, for PlanGrid. Of course, they had amazing go-to-market strategy and great product and just the right time. That also, Apple's improvement on iPads gave them a really nice tailwind.
Right.
That company was sold for almost $1 billion. And that's what I call the one-eyed man. In the industry where everyone is carrying around the blueprints, if you come up with the right product, it doesn't have to be NASA level technology, just technology that works. And that's the right thing for the market. It could be $1 billion company.
That is very, very insightful. I always think of, there's so many different problem areas when you think of construction. Even single-handedly in pre-construction, I see there are so many places where you could fill those gaps. And what I don't see is that many software, or SaaS products filling up that space. Would you say there's more opportunities for people to fill those spaces in?
100%. 100%. And especially in pre-construction, if you just look at the whole industry at a very high level, every project goes through design, pre-construction, and construction. When you get to
Mhm.
design, Autodesk basically has claimed that the design tech space. And then there are a bunch of other companies around Autodesk that integrate with them or somehow compete with them. And Autodesk started in 1980s. And Procore started in the early 2000s. And now they have kind of claimed that the construction management tech. But when it comes to Precon is still is in the spreadsheets. And
Mhm.
there's so much to Precon. Managing the whole process, different rounds of estimates, bid leveling, bid solicitations, all kinds of pre-qualifications. There's so many stuff about pre-construction, and there hasn't been any Autodesk or Procore for pre-construction around. And that's
Mhm.
why you see a lot of startups popping up every day on handling different parts of the pre-construction. Yeah, this is definitely great gold mine to mine it.
That's so true. I've known you for a long time, and every time I open LinkedIn, I see where the heck is Hamid post. So you are always traveling, you're always going to these conferences. I believe that your worldview is much bigger than mine. So have you seen anything in the industry that really struck out to you as the future of construction is going to change, and it's particularly possible that it goes in this direction? Like, how do you see that everything that we know in construction, pre-construction, all of that, we think this is the process, but it's just going to change, or someone's out there to disrupt it? Have you seen a trend like that
Well,
outside of yourself, of course?
yeah. So I look at it from a particular lens. First, when I see something that's exciting, it's exciting. And also at the same time, how's it going to impact my own business? Is it going to compete with me or not? But of course, I get excited. And there's so much stuff that I see, especially these days with AI. But I've also been around long enough to see that not all of these exciting things last.
Hmm.
And like I mentioned, I used to be a BIM manager and back in 2012. And I remember going to BIM conferences and everyone coming up with a prediction that goes something like this. In the next 5 years, 100% of of the projects will be done in BIM and there will be no 2D drawings at all. And yet just 2 months ago, we integrated with Toggle AI, which what it does is scanning the 2D blueprints to give you measurements of the drawings. And
Right.
that's just the reality. We are now like 13 years after that. And
Mm.
that prediction did not come through. And a lot of these things are like that. Like 3D printing was like the topic of the day for a while. All of the homes are going
Mm.
to be 3D printed. How many 3D printed homes have you seen directly? Yeah, it's around. It's still making progress. BIM is still making progress, but tend to get overexcited about new technology and kind of overestimate the achievements that it could bring about.
Right, right. And I think with construction, it's also about, I think where you said about 2D drawings and BIM, it's also the whole contractual process. Our contractual documents don't change. So everything should be based on the 2D design set that your architect gives to you. So we can't really use BIM outside of like, so it kind of revolves around what your contractual language is still in the industry and when that's going to change. Even the project delivery processes, they haven't changed as much in the last 10 years. So the designer and the contractor, most of the time, unless it's a design build, they're working in silos. And what I think the whole problem with 2D sheets is we are just repeating the architect's work all over.
Yes.
If you're trying to measure everything that they have already put in so much time to measure, it's kind of like that redundancy, but I'm very hopeful that there's technology out there that ultimately bridges those kind of gaps. But I'm, like you said, I'm not overestimating what AI can do or one particular technology can do. It's just holistically, I want to see these gaps being filled in.
Yeah, because AI or any technology can do so much, but it's not the entire picture. A lot of that is like the regulations or just people's behavior. When I was in my last company, I was tasked to work with the main architect that would design all of our projects, to particularly work with their BIM team to standardize the way they create their models. So when they come to us, the general contractor, we could use them for estimating with minimal effort. And that was not successful. Even though I had the mandate from the owner of the projects to ask the architect, please create the models in this way. And I would tell them, look, when you design your parking garage, when you're modeling your parking garage, the first slab on the grade should be modeled different from the elevated decks on top of it.
Yeah.
Because concrete, but it's different concrete to me as an estimate.
Yeah.
It costs differently when you are estimating the lowest one versus the elevated ones. And even something as simple as that, it didn't fly. And that's when I realized even the best technology I have, I still need to convince this guy to change their behavior. And what is their incentive to change that? Nothing. It actually adds more time to them. There's one more thing that now they need to check and be careful about. And they're just not incentivized to do that. So that's my experience. And that's there was a lot of learning that to me to understand it's not just about the technology side. You have to also incentivize people to make the changes that you want them to make.
Right, right. That's so true. There's a lot of resistance because these workflows were created way back when, and it's just how someone processes information. So for them, this is how I've always done it. This is how I understand how to do it. So I think it will take a whole different level of training and just getting people familiarized with certain concepts to be actually able to change in this direction. But Hamid, I had an amazing conversation with you. I want to wrap this up with everyone would ask you what's next for Zebel, but I want to go back and ask you, can you reflect on something, more personal? What about your roots? What part of your roots or your upbringing, culture, early struggles, what do you think is shaping the way you lead today? Like something that stayed with you and that's, part of your muscle today.
The first thing that comes to my mind is just watching my dad, how he ran his own business. And a lot of times he just had to be resourceful and use whatever resources he had and become creative and not just follow the norms. And he would always call it, in soccer, there's this term that like some of these players are so good, they play very well without the ball. That means it's not all about the player who has the ball, how he plays it. It's about also when you do not have the ball, what kind of moves you make that makes it better for the whole team to move forward. And the ball being here, like having money or the connections and everything else. And that's what I've been using basically for my own business. To give you an example, when I quit my job, it was July 2019, about like 6-7 months before COVID happened. I quit my job, didn't know that the biggest, you know, uh, pandemic is going to happen just a few months later. And I used the first 6 months to build my MVP, the minimum viable product. And I built and signed up 2 clients on it. I was super happy. I thought I'm going to secure a seed round so easily now because I already have revenue showing in the first 6 months. And then COVID happened. And of course, investors are just so careful, not even answering the calls, nothing. And I was convinced that there is no way I can raise money. This is like March. And I just convinced my then co-founder to come join me to turn that MVP that I had built and turn it into a more professional looking product. And there was no way to secure money. So I ended up I had a conversation with my wife and we ended up cashing out our entire K account and even added some of our savings on top of it so that I could hire my co-founder and pay him some. That was a big decision to make. But I would recall similar kinds of decisions that my dad had to make, a lot of like tough times. But if you really believe in what you're doing, you have to make those kinds of calls. You have to make those kinds of decisions. I'm glad I made that decision, but it could have gone the other way around too. So I made that decision, brought my co-founder. He built the professional version of the app in about like 8 months. And then we signed our first major client, the airline company, the largest developer in California. And then boom, like right there, it just paid for that and all of that.
Yeah.
But it could have gone the other way. So, but you just have to be willing to take the risk. And if my dad had an uncle, and he would always say, the profit is on the other side of courage. And if you have the courage to act on what you believe in, there could be a reward, but you got to be ready for if it doesn't work.
That's incredible. That has inspired me. I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I want to start something now. So it's really inspiring. And I think you really imbibe those qualities. You also reflect them when you speak to people. And I've seen how open and kind and, you always have a
Thank you.
smiley face whenever you talk to people. So I think it's incredible that the industry has pioneers like you. And I think it's an honor for the industry to have people like you who are visionaries and thinking far ahead in the future. I want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time to talk to me. It means a lot to me. You've seen me, like, you are probably the first few people I'm doing this with. So you are actually going to see me from scratch, whatever this is.
This is
So
awesome.
I'm,
You have to always start from somewhere, right? You always have to start from somewhere, and you just grow from here. So your speakers will only get better from here.
I hope I get better at speaking from here. I already have a great speaker sitting with me today.
Thank you.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'll hope to see you in the next conference.
Oh yeah, advancing pre-construction.
Yeah.
I usually go just for the advancing pre-construction. I see you are all over board on
Yeah, that's
all
the
advancing.
next one is in May. It's happening in Phoenix.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's I don't know about it, but I will most likely be there. So I'll see you there. I
You
hope
too.
you have a good one.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
You too.